Hi, I'm Elijah
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Isaiah.
Welcome to Luna Alpha.
of Mount Calvary Lutheran in Waukesha.
The city of Luna Alpha started development in 2020 with scientists living and researching on the moon. In 2030, the city was declared inhabitable, and we saw a small trickle of inhabitants. 100 years later, we now have a thriving population, and we have multiple regions of our city.
Our city has many major features, including our adaptive power grid, powered by our central thorium breeder reactor. This thorium is provided by our extensive mining operation, which we have going on down in the crater, which is right next to where our city is located. In this mining operation, we produce mainly titanium and thorium, as well as lunar regolith, all of which are used extensively throughout the city. Our city consumes, on average, about 120 million calories every day, which is provided by our roughly 20th of a square mile of vertical farms inside of our greenhouse dome. Well, this might sound like a relatively small area to provide this much nutrition for our city. When you consider that vertical farms are up to 100 times as efficient as classical farms of the same scale, it starts to make a bit more sense. There's also even a surplus, especially of corn in our greenhouse dome, which is then used in the ethanol plants throughout our city to produce fuel for our cars, which he will talk about later. For recreation, we have simulated parks with the sights and sounds of nature inside of our residential zones. And our economy is supported by a flexible, large-scale school system, which is constantly churning out new, highly educated students every day. And we have a large central data center, which is able to power the very data-rich economies of our city.
And knowing that the moon has very little oxygen, we have our city sectioned into these domes. These domes are made out of mooncrete. These domes are also connected by these tubes. Now you might be wondering, how do you get from region to region? That's where the parking structure comes into place. Our parking garage contains an airlock so that every time you exit or enter, the building retains all the oxygen that is in it. Now, let's take a closer look at our region. First off, we have our commercial hub. Our commercial hub houses all the buildings that you would need to go to, like for groceries or anything like that. So like Walmart, Walgreens, or let's say Starbucks. And then moving on, we have the visitor center. The visitor center is where you would go if you wanted to tour the moon or if you are waiting for a permanent home on the moon. After that, we have the service zone. That is where the fire department is, the police department, and the hospital. Next, we have the residential zone. The residential zone consists of houses, but mostly apartments. The reason for that is you can fit more people in a smaller area. Now, we move on to the school, which is attached to the residential zone, creating a much easier transportation from home to school. It makes it much easier on the students. And our school goes from pre-K all the way up to college.
Over here on our vehicles, what may look like a radiator is actually a form of oxygen concentrator. So these oxygen concentrators take in the weak atmosphere with their small amount of oxygen and concentrate the oxygen, making it into more usable oxygen for the engine. As he said earlier, these engines run on ethanol, which is because it is so renewable and easy to produce. To make these cars pollution-free, they have a certain device in the exhaust system that divides the carbon monoxide and the carbon monoxide at the atomic level, sending oxygen out the tailpipe and building up a solid block of carbon in a certain chamber. Periodically, these carbon blocks have to be removed, either if the person is mechanically apt enough or if they want to take it to the mechanic in the garage. Over here we have our passenger rocket, which citizens can board to go to a different region of our moon city. This is very vitally important to the economy because many citizens each day like to go to different regions or do flyovers to the moon, which is also an option. Over here we have our mining operation. We have multiple drills that bring up the regolith and they put it onto this conveyor belt. And once they pass over the conveyor belt, they go under a laser, and the laser transforms the regular blocks of regolith into usable blocks of mooncrete, which we use to build and repair our domes. For transport of the mooncrete, we have our lunar rover, which takes them from the collection chamber over to our freight rocket, which is loaded up with mooncrete and is sent over to other regions of our city.
Thank you for watching the presentation of our city, and we hope you join soon.